Well, to discuss this, I'm joined from the Italian town of Urbino by Fabio Bordignon. He was an observer of the Italian elections. In Rome, we have Raffaele Marchetti. He's a senior assistant professor of international relations at Luis Guido Carli University. And completing our panel, also in Rome, is journalist Maurizio Caprara. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. Maurizio Caprara, if I can begin with you, populism seems to be alive and well in Italy after this election. Tell me, why do you think Italians have chosen this path?
Italians have chosen this path because for 10 years Italy had a low an economic crisis and then a low growth rate, and also if the economy is going better, the perception of the people is that these years are not being good. And there is also an alarm, on my personal point of view, an alarm which is exaggerate on migrations. And this alarm has been used by the populist forces to work on the feelings, the deep feelings of fear connected with the economic crisis. That is the main reason. Then there is also difficulties for the classical center-left forces, and also for the side of the center-right led by Silvio Berlusconi to gain consensus. And it's like a huge amount of people is saying, get away, we don't want to have something to do with you. It's maybe it's a particular season, but he will have aftermaths also on the European Union.
Right. So, Fabio, the biggest winners seem to be the sort of right-wing coalition plus the five-star movement. What was behind their magic? Did they have to work very hard for these votes, or was the context just perfect for them this time around?
I would say that the context was perfect, because when you have a government that is not a result of elections, like the government that Italy has had in the last 7 years, I think there is the perfect scenario for the rise of populist forces. Consider that if we sum together the votes that the League and the Five Stars movement have got yesterday, we arrive at 50%. So there is a large disappointment in the country about how Italy has been led in the recent phase, and this creates the perfect scenario for this kind of parties.
And Fabio, are you worried?
No, I'm not worried, but I'm looking ahead, seeing a very uncertain future, because there is not a majority, and it will not be easy to build one inside this parliament. This is, of course, the result of this new electoral law, which is mainly proportional, with a little correction which regards the first past the post seats, and it will be very complicated in the next weeks or maybe months.
Raffaele Marchetti, is it possible to take these results, look at it objectively and think, okay, it's possible to build a functioning, good, governing coalition with the five-star movement and the right-wing coalition, or even including the center-left in some way? Is it going to be easy and possible?
It's not going to be easy. It is possible. I mean, we have seen very different kinds of coalitions in history, so it is possible. Of course, there will be a few weeks of very intense negotiations. There are different options. We still need to see the very final results with the clear distribution of seats, and from there will be open negotiations. There are two options at the moment: a center-right government with few other MPs maybe from the center-left, or a five-star movement government with some backing again from the center-left sides of the political spectrum. So in a way, the center-left has lost the elections clearly, but still has a margin of maneuvering because it can sort of choose whether to back a center-right coalition or the five-star movement government.
Yeah. And Maurizio, one man who has re-emerged yet again, Silvio Berlusconi. Don't rule him out. The man is, what, in his 80s now? But for some reason, he keeps on re-emerging. He's back again in the political sphere. Tell me why Italians like him so much.
They like him less than before. And they liked him a lot at the beginning because Mr. Berlusconi gave a double message. One, it was, if you are with me, you will be one of the people that renew this country, will change it. And at the same time, an underlying message was, no problem. If you have problem with taxes, if you have problem building homes and you were not allowed, I won't be so stricter that you will have some troubles. And this double message was effective for a long time. Then now Silvio Berlusconi hasn't the capability to stop the increase of a rightist right. Silvio Berlusconi, in his way, he has been a moderate. And moderate are not the winners of these elections.
Yeah, and one of the ways in which they disseminated their information seems to be on social media. Raffaele Marchetti, we have a quote from Matteo Salvini saying, "Thank God for the internet, thank God for social media, thank God for Facebook." Help us understand how the message, whatever that message might be, whether it was anti-immigrant or just essentially against the system, help us understand how that filtered through the society, especially through non-traditional ways.
Well, it's clear that the winners are also the best users of the social media. Both the five-star movements and the Northern League are those who are better at sort of playing the game of the social media. The five-star movements, in a way, declares its own nature based on internet, this kind of e-participation. Northern League is very effective on social media. There are also, from time to time, rumors about sort of kind of fake news circulating, though in this case, probably they were not so important. But clearly, I mean, this is a commonality between the winners. The good use of social media, much more than, of course, Silvio Berlusconi, who was much better at using TVs rather than social media, or the PD, not really effective on that side.
Yeah, and it's interesting watching footage of him as well. He still seems to sort of flash the smile for the photo op and talk to the old lady and so on. A very old style of doing things. It still seems to work for him. Fabio, for those who see that the right wing, especially the far right, has a voice and will have a voice after these elections, they look at Italy from the outside and they think, oh my God, far right, what is this going to be? Mussolini again. Help me understand the tone and the atmosphere regarding them and what they want.
Well, surely the balance inside the center-right coalition has shifted towards the right, and I would say toward the extreme right, because the League, once a regionalist party, has now been transformed by its leader, Matteo Salvini, into a nationalist, Eurosceptic party, which takes the French Front National as a model. And consider that among its voters, about 69% see foreign people as a danger, while the mean in Italian society is about 45. So we have at the same time Brothers of Italy, Giorgia Meloni's party, inside the center-right coalition, which is the heir of the post-fascist movement in Italy. And at the same time, there are many far-right movements and parties outside the official center-right, which are very active in Italy and have increased their activism and public visibility in recent days.
Right. And I'm glad that Fabio mentioned Euroscepticism, because I want to ask you, Raffaele Marchetti, should they be concerned in Brussels?
Well, Yes, I think so. And they were concerned before the election, during the election campaigns. There were repeated messages coming from Brussels of worry. Both the League, the Northern League, and the Five Star Movements are definitely not Euro enthusiastic. They belong to a different camp, a camp that is very critical of the European institution, the European project. Of course, the League much more than the Five Star Movements, but both are critical. So it's very clear that if they go and they manage to create a government, then their attitude toward the European Union institutions will be troublesome, will be critical. They will engage in harsh negotiations. Both mention in their campaign that their intention of renegotiating a number of agreements. Salvini himself continues to repeat that the euro is a currency that is bound to die, to be sort of cancelled. Until few months ago, the Five Star Movement was in favor of a referendum, calling for a referendum for opting out of the euro. Just recently, they have changed a bit their position, but clearly they are not in the same camp with Macron and Merkel.
Right.
And this will be an issue in European politics and will probably cause a certain degree of marginalization of Italy from the central Franco-German relation.
Right. Marginalization doesn't necessarily mean leaving Europe, but maybe the relationship won't be so great anymore. Maurizio, when we look at that, if we have a coalition between the Five Star Movement and the League, would being in power mean that they temper their big talk of being anti-EU, or will we actually see the process of Italy starting to extricate itself from the European Union?
No, I don't think Italy can go out from the European Union, and I think that also the winners of the election have to face the reality. Without euro, Italians would be more poor than they are now, of course, because the power of that currency is higher than any kind of going back to the lira. And so the retirement wage and all the amounts of money that Italians have would have less value than now. So I think they can't bring Italy out of euro if something else doesn't happen in the currency. And I think that Italy won't be in the front line of a European effort to re-announce the European Union. And it will be not close to France and Germany in the kind of, we can call a liaison or alliance they're doing for announce the European Union again. May I spend a few words in defense of the TV influence?
Go ahead.
You were talking about the internet, and I think that Matteo Salvini and his league has been helped more than internet from the TV programs. They were a destroyed political party in 2013 after scandals and after a lack of voters. And then the presence of Matteo Salvini in a lot of TV programs helped him changing also the political strategy of his party to gain more consensus.
Okay, well, so then he's wrong. He should have added, thank God for TV as well. Fabio Bordignon, free and fair elections in a way give us the pulse of a nation. For those on the outside who see where the Italians have voted, what they have chosen, if you could sum up, what do Italians want after this election, what would that be?
I would say that this result on the one side show how Italy is still affected by a strong political and economic malaise. And this election is also the demonstration that that malaise cannot be cured only building defensive barriers against populism, trying to keep the populist monster outside the political palace. But I think that traditional parties, if they want to survive, they need to start imagining a new political vision for the future. And of course, the Five Star Movement and the League are populist party, but they have been able, especially the Five Star Movement, to express not only a protest vote, but provide an alternative, a real alternative to Italian voters.
Right. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure learning about the Italian political system and where you're headed. I thank you all for joining us here on the Newsmakers. Unfortunately, I've got to move on. Maurizio Caprara, Raffaele Marchetti and Fabio Bordignon, thanks again.